Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to be talking about Enjin's latest update. This is a big project now moving into one of the most prominent blockchains right now in development, Polkadot. So this is one of the things, like, NFTs are close to our heart right now, and Enjin's like one of the bigger projects in the NFT space, and now they're moving into the Polkadot, probably new era of blockchains.
Yeah, another one close to our heart, dude.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we've obviously been super bullish on Polkadot. We've been covering it since, like, it first launched. So yeah, it's been a slow grind as far as, like, actually seeing it like execute, and we're still not really there. But there's some signs, emerging that we're getting closer and closer and closer by the day.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hype building up to these Parachain launches, that hence, like, the price of Polkadot, like, slowly just going up and up and up, right? So we've already identified in the past how these Parachains are going to work, right? Now, we don't the tidbit of info we're missing is, like, when they're going to go down and how you can participate, like the actual, like, step-by-step process. But
yeah, and
let's get there, dude.
Yeah, we just saw on Polkadot's Twitter account that they're starting to test that, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, Enjin's a huge project at $2.2 billion market cap, and they have a huge runway in terms of, like, I mean, look at this explosion, dude.
Who is this?
Enjin.
Good God.
Yeah,
that chart is looking very like, we've seen that chart.
Yeah, we've seen that chart before, right?
From, like, a bunch of different projects. So yeah. I mean, the market's definitely getting excited, right? They're picking up on these things and really driving up the value of these core projects. So
yeah, I mean, the volume went from, like, 10 million roughly to, like, hundreds of millions, like at some point at 400 million. So
yeah, man, everyone said this would happen, right? After Bitcoin's, like, monster rally during, like, Q4 2020.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everyone said, just wait till Bitcoin settles down and it's going to be altcoin season. And that came true. Altcoins are popping like crazy, some more than others, but
yeah,
it's definitely not the end.
So let's take a look at their announcement. So to write the next chapter of NFT history, we need a blockchain that not only solves the problems faced today, but opens new possibilities for the NFTs of tomorrow. Introducing, I don't know why this thing pops up. Affinity. I don't know what it is. Like, it like brings up a hashtag right in like a short space. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay. But this is Enjin's, like, big coming out tweet, right? Like, they have this whole giant announcement, right?
Yeah.
But what's Affinity?
So
I guess, so let's briefly explain what Enjin does, right? Enjin, I mean, we have previous videos where we go kind of dive deep into Enjin. It's an ecosystem for mostly game developers, right? Like, that was their original core concept, like a platform for game developers to come and onboard into the blockchain ecosystem, mint their assets, and build their games. I think they're starting to expand past that a little bit, onboarding entities like Microsoft and, like, other things.
Yeah.
So they could also mint their NFTs, but now they want to take it to this next level called Affinity.
It's next generation blockchain for non-fungible tokens. So basically, I definitely recommend you guys read this introduction here. It's really good.
It's really long too, but yeah, it's very well written.
Yeah.
And this is just the intro. Yeah, like you said, they have a whole white paper too you can go through.
Yeah. Yeah. And the white paper is also really good. But this is a purpose-built blockchain on Polkadot, so it's a parachain that is focused on NFTs. So I think their target market is still games, but now it allows game developers to mint NFTs that are interoperable within the Polkadot ecosystem. And of course, the Polkadot ecosystem is going to incorporate a bunch of chains like Ethereum and many others via the cross-chain messaging platform that Polkadot has built for them. So now this is a purpose-built NFT project, and I think they're doubling down on the whole NFT concept. So if we go back to the NFT craze that we just experienced with Top Shots and basically any other NFTs, is like, for example, Beeple's selling for $69 million. They're doubling down, and I think NFTs is probably a product technology for the mainstream audience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Versus DeFi, which is it has a huge purpose too for the underlying financial infrastructure. but it's not as attractive for the common person to be involved in DeFi, right? It's more attractive to be involved in NFTs for the regular people.
I think that's like a Western phenomenon though. Like for the West, yeah, of course, us like comfortably set up with our banking infrastructure, we're not so interested in decentralized finance, right? Because we're serviced pretty well by traditional finance, right? But there's like a whole 70% rest of the world, you know, in non-developed nations that don't have that banking infrastructure that are much more inclined, you know, to participate in DeFi because like they have that incentive to do so, right? Either you participate in DeFi or you don't,
yeah,
and you have nothing. You know, those are the options. Us like more, you know, integrated societies with traditional finance, we either don't integrate with DeFi or we stick to our traditional finance, which as of today is servicing us pretty well. Right?
Yeah.
Who knows if that's going to remain in the future? We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a debate amongst us on where it's going to head.
Exactly. That's for like a longer podcast conversation.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. And we've had that conversation a number of times. I think it keeps evolving a little bit by little, just based upon like what the government says about cryptocurrencies in the wider sense. But I think this is a conversation worth, you know, having several times, just because there's a lot riding on this thing, right? Fiat currency is facing potentially the end, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
It could be scary when you say it out loud, though.
Yeah, it is.
So let's stick to NFTs, right? That's the point of NFTs. They're not terrifying like finance is. Finance like implications are like way scarier to talk about whenever they go wrong.
Yeah.
NFTs, this is why they're mainstream appealable, right? Like it's fun, it's engaging. You know, you could mint tokens representing, you know, your laughter if you really wanted to, you know, like something nice. Like I'm gonna laugh into a microphone, mint that into an NFT, and like, you know, sell it to the world.
Yeah,
like, how can you not smile thinking about that, right? As opposed to like global finance is about to crumble.
Yeah, know, but on top of that, we can't forget that NFTs are being used financially as well, like for financial products.
True.
So I mean, NFTs they have a wide use case. I think the main obvious use case for NFTs is appealable to the general population. So Enjin is doubling down on it, of course. And just recently, how much did they raise? $20 million? Is that right?
It was a lot, dude. I think it was like 18 to 19 million, something like that.
Yeah.
For this new initiative they're announcing, right?
Yeah. And so you actually made a prediction as to what exactly they're going to be building on Polkadot. And your prediction ended up being right after reading the documents and reading the white paper, that essentially they're just going to provide that interoperability inherently with this Efinity platform for developers. But they do have some new features that we can kind of talk about here. So one of the features, and you should definitely read the white paper. It's actually pretty short for a white paper. But one of the features is called fuel tanks. So any developer who develops on Efinity on top of Polkadot has this fuel tank ability. So in this fuel tank, you as a developer can load it up with funds and pay for the transaction fees that could occur on your game or your product within Efinity. And so once that fuel tank is emptied, then the user would have to pay for the fees themselves. But you're at least creating that frictionless experience at the beginning, and you can create some mechanism to where the fuel tank is funded by interactions within this game or whatever it is. So you can kind of gamify fuel tanks. And this is just a functionality that Efinity is providing developers. So you can use it or not, but it's there, right? What else? So fuel tanks is one, crafting is another. So crafting is a very common mechanism in gaming. And I think what they did is just essentially package it up into something easily digestible for any developer to kind of leverage this mechanism. And now it's part of the platform. So that's just making it efficient for developers to craft for whatever they need.
Yeah. Ultimately, like all these features that they are announcing and are planning to release, it just aligns with their original goal and mission, right? Is to onboard developers into the blockchain ecosystem. And the problem with that is the blockchain ecosystem itself is a little daunting, even to like the best of developers in the traditional tech world, right? Like it's a whole new language, literally, that you have to kind of familiarize yourself with and understand in order to figure out how to like program these functionalities into your game. So Enjin's already been working on this for the last 4 years, right? Building this platform for these developers to come in, expose themselves to these new tools, and like service a whole new sector of gamers potentially, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So this affinity migration, they're continuing with this mission, but now they've identified like a much more user-friendly environment, right? To like deploy all this technology to, which is Polkadot, which is what we've been speculating all along, right? Like that is the point of Polkadot, right? It's this scalable. It has all of the framework needed for all this cross-chain communication that we talk about in Ethereum, right? Right now in Ethereum, it's like in theory mode because it's so much harder to figure out, right? Everything is harder to figure out in Ethereum because it's the already running machine. So Polkadot has the advantage of being the machine that's building all this framework before it starts to run, right? So it makes sense for Enjin to align themselves now with and become a parachain and just service the already existing like developer user base that they were targeting before, but in a much more friendly environment for their users, right?
So let's speculate.
That was my prediction. Like we weren't going to see anything like groundbreaking, like as far as like this new wheel being invented.
Yeah.
all I imagined that we would find out is like they're just leveraging Polkadot exactly how Polkadot is supposed to be leveraged, like as a technology, right?
Yeah. So let's speculate why an NFT project would need interoperability with other chains. Like, because if you're a game creator, you make a game and you may not need different chains to be accessible for your game. Like, why would you need that? And so we speculate that if you enable this functionality, like cross-chain functionality, there's going to be incentives for developers who may exist on a different chain or different parachain, whatever, on the Polkadot ecosystem that makes some sort of function that says, hey, bring your NFTs over here and you can stake them, or you can do some sort of function with those NFTs, those game assets, if you will. And that may be a good reason to be a developer on the Polkadot ecosystem, to leverage those different creations by other developers. And I just don't, we haven't really seen that so much yet. I mean, think about Rarible and OpenSea. They host all these NFTs, and you can just buy any NFT from OpenSea or Rarible as long as it's there. But I don't know from a game developer standpoint why you would need access to different blockchains yet. And it's really because that functionality hasn't really been there. So you just created like your own little ecosystem within the blockchain that you're on. But I'm speculating that once Affinity is out there on Polkadot, there's going to be incentives to build these things out. And then there's going to be other game developers out there leveraging that accessibility that otherwise wouldn't be there.
I mean, it's the same thing with DeFi, right? Like DeFi largely started on Ethereum, but now we're starting to see DeFi emerge on all these other alternate silos of blockchain.
That's a good point, dude. Because a lot of these DeFi projects, one of them was Ramp, where you stake your token in one platform or one chain, and you mint a token on another chain.
Yeah.
Right? Because of this cross functionality, you can do that. In a silo scenario, you're just minting another coin, right?
Yeah, but the incentive to do that is because the liquidity exists in all these alternate ecosystems, right?
Yeah.
As a game ecosystem, you want to tap into all available sources of liquidity. Right now, we call it liquidity. That's what we call it for DeFi's case. I don't know what it's going to be called for like NFT ecosystems case, like NFT liquidity. I don't know. Game liquidity, like just game users, right? Like that's kind of like the big vision of the metaverse, right? It's like this whole interconnected like web world where like assets are interoperable, like you can migrate them to different chains. But from like an end user perspective, you shouldn't really like feel like you're doing that, right? It should be like this seamless thing. You're going from one game to another with your asset, with this sword, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Like the sword you spend 1,000 hours to acquire. It would really suck if I could only use it in one game, right? Well, it doesn't suck. Like that's how gaming is today. But the whole point of blockchain is we're trying to change that, right? We're trying to change it. So you acquire the sword, you can go anywhere, any game created in the blockchain ecosystem and leverage this asset you've earned for yourself, right? Thus creating more value for the asset itself, enhancing the user experience and engagement. all that stuff, right? So
yeah, see that ability you're talking about will exist on Polkadot, but it's still up to the developer to enable that in their game, right? And so it has to be able to recognize this NFT and be like, oh, this sword came from that game, but you can use it in my game.
True.
And so there still needs to be like adoption from the developer standpoint to make that a reality, but it won't.
By front running that adoption,
That's
like
right.
Affinity is, right? Like it's laying the groundwork for that potential, right?
Yeah.
So that you, as the game developer of the future, can now leverage the framework that Enjin and Affinity has set up, right? Like so
That's
that
right.
we could build these experiences into our games. You know, just like how DeFi is composable, right? Like it's the same thing. It's composability.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you never know. If you give it a game developer and he develops a game and he knows that he has access to these composable technologies like DeFi, like staking and all that, he might incorporate that technology into his game. And you could be leveraging tech from a completely different parachain because you're inherently built on Polkadot.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's exciting about what Infinity is building here, because there's going to be new content, new games being developed just because you have access to blockchain tech on different chains, right?
Yeah. So ultimately, like the main takeaway is that this is great news for Polkadot.
Yeah.
In the sense that, you know, it's kind of like the purpose behind building Polkadot ecosystem in the first place. It's starting to be realized, I guess, and adopted by like these core groups. Like Enjin is it's a staple in the NFT industry, right? Like it's actually the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Enjin in a lot of ways is pioneering a lot of things, especially in the gaming sector.
Yeah, they pioneered 1155s, ERC 1155s.
That's right. So they've already set themselves apart from the class as like, you know, standardizing things for the entire industry, right? Like now if you're building games, you want to incorporate their assets into your games. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a standard. Yeah. So now they're probably going to standardize in the future, like this whole interoperability layer for games, right? So that's their goal, that's their mission. And the fact that they chose Polkadot as opposed to, you know, Cosmos or Ethereum, doing it the hard way on Ethereum, right? The hard way is like sitting around waiting for ETH all of this, this infrastructure to be built. Because that's the thing about Ethereum, man. Like it took so long for layer 2 to become a reality, right? Because we just made this video, like, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? The Polygon video.
2 days ago.
Matic's been around for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it took a couple of years for like the Ethereum ecosystem to recognize what it is and to like propel it to like, okay, now this feels like this is becoming standard layer 2 for Ethereum. You know, it takes a while for these technologies to be realized in Ethereum because there's just so much competition. Yeah. So, but Polkadot, it's like, it's already there. It's like a few months away from being ready. Like it's just there. So I think that's the choice they had at the end of the day. Do we wait around for Ethereum ecosystem to mature, or do we just say, F it, we're going to Polkadot?
Yeah, you know? and basically making this move, it's basically a call that a lot of projects are going to be wanting to go on Polkadot just because of the interchange, the interoperability and access to different blockchains and different technologies, right? Mm-hmm. This is making a claim that Polkadot's going to be that standard of interoperability. And so, I mean, that's a huge deal. And if you're looking at the screen here, test parachain auctions and crowd loans have been launched on Rococo testnet, so it's coming. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer, dude. This is what you call like edging, you know? Edging. Yeah. Like the great like explosion is about to happen, dude. Like I could already see the memes, like the like when the parachains go live. Right. I mean, just for us, man, because we've been waiting for this. And there's a few projects that are like first in line, right? We got Kala, Moonbeam, Edgeware, Platinum, and like Kilt. There's a few others, but like already like testing out on this test net. So I think it's safe to assume these are probably going to be the first parachains to go live. Yeah, agreed. So, yeah, man. Like, so we got to keep our eyes on Polkadot. There's so much going on outside of Polkadot that it's kind of hard to stay fixated on what's happening, but you know, now I feel like the time is coming to where we really need to be paying attention like more often. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that's the video. If let us know what you think about Enjin. Follow us on Twitter at the Blockrunner and also at MetaZone.io. Like, subscribe, and we will Catch you in the next video.
Peace.